cheese omelet, a green salad. That's my idea of a fast dinner, unless I've got to feed more than myself, and then I'm churning out omelets one at a time. So what do? You cue the frittata, and cueing Keith in here, he's also going to show us how to make a great hearty frittata. That's really easy.
Yeah, so frittatas are certainly a lot easier than omelets, but they have problems too. The eggs can be tough. You can have so many fillings in there that it just breaks apart. And since we're going to make a hearty frittata today, trying to get that cooked evenly is going to be a challenge. So let's start right from the beginning, and I'll show you how to make a perfect frittata.
Sounds great.
So for the fillings, we want something that has a lot of flavor, a lot of punch to it, because we want to use a fairly small amount.
Okay.
More fillings, it's going to have a tendency to break.
Sure.
So I have broccoli florets here. I'm going to cut these into fairly small pieces. We want about a ½ inch of little florets, because any larger than that, and you end up with scrambled eggs with broccoli in it rather than a nice whole frittata. And I'm working with 12 ounces of florets here. And when we cook it down, it will be about 3 cups. And that's the kind of ideal ratio that we found. We're working with 12 eggs to feed 4 people.
So it's kind of formulaic.
It is. It's very formulaic. So can I ask you to preheat our skillet?
Sure.
That's a non-stick skillet, 12 inches, and we have a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil in there. Heat that over medium-high heat. We're going to start cooking our broccoli in there. So it looks like our oil is shimmering here, and it's ready for our broccoli. And a good rule for frittatas is that you want to make sure that the filling is cooked before you put the eggs in, because it's not going to have a chance to cook any more once the egg is in there.
Right.
So what we're going to do is we have our broccoli in here. I'm going to add a ¼ teaspoon of salt to this and a pinch of red pepper flakes. Just boost that flavor a little bit. We still want the broccoli to have some bite to it. We want it to be crisp but tender. And we also want a little bit of color on this. That brown broccoli flavor is a nice flavor to have.
So good.
So we're going to cook this for about 7 to 9 minutes. So if you can just keep an eye on that. I'm going to work on our eggs. We have a dozen eggs here. We just don't want to add straight eggs to this frittata because that is a recipe for tough eggs.
Right.
So a lot of recipes use dairy to provide tenderness. So we ended up with whole milk. No reason to go out and buy heavy cream or anything special for this.
Very interesting.
So a 1/3 cup of milk. And another important ingredient here is salt. Not only for flavor, but it's going to help to tenderize the eggs. The salt's going to inhibit those egg proteins from bonding to one another, and it's going to make tender eggs. So I have a ½ teaspoon of salt, and I'm just going to mix this together until it's homogeneous.
Well, in the meantime, let's take a look at how liquid and salt change the texture of the frittata. A raw egg consists of coiled up proteins floating in liquid. Egg whites are about 90% water. Now when we add heat, the proteins first uncoil, then knit together, contracting into a firm mesh that holds the water in place. Adding more liquid, like milk, means the proteins have more room to swim around in, making it more difficult for them to find each other and bond. When they eventually find each other and bond, they're more spread out, holding in all that moisture. This results in a softer texture. As the egg mesh cooks, it gets tighter and more contracted, and some of the added moisture gets squeezed out. Salt helps prevent that moisture loss by loosening the protein network so it can't contract as much, and it won't squeeze out as much moisture. And that's why liquid and salt are both key to our tender frittata.
Okay, it's been 7 minutes, and you can see the broccoli is nicely brown.
Beautiful. It's
crisp, tender, but I just want to make sure that it's fully cooked all the way through. So I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of water, and you can see that puff of steam. That's just going to make sure that everything is evenly cooked in there. And I'm also going to add a ½ teaspoon of lemon juice and a ½ teaspoon of lemon zest. These are really nice flavors to add to broccoli. Much like salt, they're going to bring out that flavor, but they're not going to be overly aggressively lemon.
Right. It's not a lemon frittata.
So I'm just going to give this a quick stir. So now it's time to cook the frittata. So we're going to leave that on. I'm going to add 4 ounces of feta cheese that's been crumbled before we add our eggs. Nice, boldly flavored cheese. Not a lot. We don't want to interrupt that structure, but you're going to get nice, salty bits in there. Now, when it comes to cooking frittata, we found that cooking it on the stovetop all the way yielded a frittata that was cooked on the bottom, but not on the top.
So you get that really hard bit of egg on the bottom.
Yeah, and it's kind of runny on top.
Exactly.
Really not great. We can put it in the oven, but it takes 40 minutes. We don't want to wait that long.
No.
So we're going to have a hybrid technique. We're going to start cooking on the stove, we're going to set the eggs, and then we'll go in the oven to finish.
Great.
So I'm going to add this. What we're looking for is we want the eggs to start to set. They're going to form large curds, and our spatula is going to leave a trail when we drag it through. Okay, you can see that we're starting to form large curds here, but it's still quite wet. You can see that my spatula leaves a nice trail.
Yeah.
And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna smooth the top of this, get everything off the edges here, and then let it sit for 30 seconds. And what that's gonna do is gonna form a nice bottom so we have a nice cohesive frittata. So it's been 30 seconds, and if I can ask you to open the oven door, we're gonna bake this in a 350-degree oven for 6 to 9 minutes, and it's gonna puff up slightly, and then when we press down on it, it will bounce back.
Okay.
Okay, let's see if this is ready. Oh, it looks ready.
Looks beautiful.
Slightly puffy. So you can see that it's puffed around the edges here, and then when you poke it with your finger, yeah.
It's some resistance there. It's coming back.
It's some resistance, but it springs back when you poke it like that. I think that's going to be perfect.
Nice.
So I'm going to take this out, transfer it to our cutting board.
Okay. If we left it in the hot pan, it would continue to cook, and we'd have overcooked eggs.
Yeah, you don't want that bottom to overcook at this point. Get a spatula underneath here and slide.
Boom. Look at that.
So
Gorgeous.
this is pretty hot right now. We just want to let this set for 5 minutes before we can eat it. The eggs will set up a little bit more, become a little bit firmer, but still remain nice and tender. Okay, this is rested for 5 minutes, and I think we can cut into it.
Oh, it's still looking good. I love that I can see these little pockets of feta that have not melted completely in there. Can you see into the side of that frittata? It's creamy, and you still have these pockets of the feta and the broccoli. So good. And on the bottom, a beautifully toasty golden color going in my mouth. First thing I noticed is flavor. Big flavors packed in here.
Yeah.
But not a ton of filling. So it's not like you tried to pack everything from the garden in here. Look how creamy and tender that is.
No, so you can taste just that touch of lemon. It's a nice addition to that broccoli. The salty bits of feta are really complement the broccoli as well.
This is dinner perfected.
Yeah, your family will be happy now.
You're coming over to cook it, right?
For a fee.
There you go. I like that. Thank you, Keith. Well, for a hearty family-sized frittata, cook broccoli until browned, then finish with lemon juice and zest. Whisk together a custard of eggs, milk, and salt, and add to the broccoli along with feta cheese. Cook briefly on the stovetop, then finish in the oven until puffy. From our test kitchen to your kitchen, a sizable, savory, substantial broccoli and feta frittata. All right, you're gonna have to start slicing another piece here. I'm almost done.
Round two?
Thanks for watching America's Test Kitchen. What'd you think?
Well, leave a comment and let us know which recipes you're excited to make, or you can just say hello.
You can find links to today's recipes and reviews in the video description.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
See you later.
I'll see you later.